Welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. Today we'll answer the question, music theory for guitar players? Where do you start? Now, music theory, all the stuff, right? This is a catalog. Music theory is a catalog of ideas and principles on how music works. It's our way of describing how music functions, and it's been written and refined for centuries. So there's a lot of information in there. Naturally, that's pretty overwhelming. We've got to have some sort of a starting point, some place to hook on, right? Some piece of information or a couple of pieces of information that allow us to get a handle on it, right? To get started. I'm going to give you those two pieces of information today. Before we get started, I've written a PDF that covers all the stuff in this lesson. It covers these two very important core principles to get started, to really start to understand how the guitar works, how music works. And you can get that PDF in two different ways. One is trade me your email on my website and you get it for free. And the other is if you support me and pledge to my Patreon page at any level, you also get the PDF as well. We only need two things to learn. Number one, the musical alphabet. It's just the letters A through G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm going to play those on the A string, and then we're going to talk about them for a minute. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. I'm going to play it again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now you probably noticed, I certainly did, they're not all the same distance apart. The distances are different, right? We got to figure that out. So I'm going to put the distances in here. The W's are whole steps, the distance of 2 frets, and those H's are half steps, the distance of 1 fret. So between A and B, whole step, between B and C, half step, between C and D, whole step, between D and E, another whole step, E and F, that's a half step, F and G, that's a whole step, G back to A, whole step. Now, I don't know about you, but I like to reduce things to the smallest possible piece of information that I have to understand to get the context. To me, this looks like a bunch of whole steps with 2 half steps in between B and C and E and F. Let's try that. Let's just put that little hat on and think about it that way and see if it's easier to play. All whole steps until I get to a B, then it's a half step to C, or until I get to an E, then it's a half step to F. Let's give that a try. A, B, well, there's my first one. C, D, E, there's my second one. F, G, A. Well, for me, that's much easier. All the notes are a whole step apart except for B and C and E and F. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Right? Much easier. In fact, let's take that same idea now and put it on the next string. We're going to use this D string. That means we're going to start on D, right? So again, everything's a whole step apart until I get to a B or an E, right? Here's that D string. D, E, there's my first one. F, G, A, B, there's the next one. C, D. Much easier if I only think about those 2 half steps. Let's try it on the G string. G, A, B, there we go. C, D, E, there's my second one. F, G. Let's start on the B string. The B is going to start with a half step, right? B, C, D, E, there's my second one. F, G, A, B. Let's try it on the E string. E string's going to start with a half step as well. E, F, G, A, B, there's that second half step. C, D, E. Much easier to think about with just those 2 half steps, right? So you don't have to worry about which one is which blah, 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 which one's a whole step. Just know they're all whole steps except for B and C and E and F. Now those whole steps left some notes unnamed. Those are the sharps and the flats. So I'm going to go back to the A string and just explain how that works. The note in between A and B, this one here, can either be called A sharp or B flat. Now there's a lot of different context to take into account the more you learn, but for now let's just say if we're going up, if we're increasing pitch, we're going to use the sharp names, and if we're going to go down, we're going to be decreasing pitch, we're going to use the flat names. Here's what that looks like. A sharp, B, C, C sharp D, D sharp E, F, F sharp G, G sharp A. Now I'm going to go backwards, going to go back down. I'm going to use the flat names. A flat G, G flat F, E flat D, D flat C, B, B flat A, right? So now we've named every single note. These are the only 12 notes we ever get. This is the entire musical alphabet. Every song, every great guitar solo, everything we've ever heard has only used these 12 notes. Obviously, they go through different octaves, but these are the only 12 notes we ever get. So this is a pretty important piece of information to know. It's the first piece of information. It's the musical alphabet. Stick it on the fretboard. Okay, the second piece of information is the major scale. Now, the major scale is just another set of distances in that octave being like from the nut to the 12th fret. That octave, again, all 12 notes, it's the only 12 notes we ever get. The major scale simply divides that distance up with another set of distances in between notes. Here's what it sounds like. It's our do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale. And I'm starting on A here. I'm going to number these notes. I'm going to put those down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're back where we started from, just up an octave. The formula for the major scale, those distances, I'm going to stick those in. Now we're going to put this on the A string. I'm going to just play the A major scale as numbers. In other words, we're just going to use these numbers and this set of distances to navigate the A major scale on this string. Here we go. From the 1, that's our starting point, to the 2 is a whole step, 2 to 3 is a whole step, 3 to 4 is a half step, 4 to 5 is a whole step, 5 to 6 is a whole step, 6 to 7 is a whole step, 7 to root is a half step. Now, again, I'm just going to look at this and say, this looks like all whole steps except for 2 half steps, between the 3 and the 4, and then another set between the 7 and the 1. Let me try that and see if that's easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's our first one. 5, 6, 7, there's our second one. Seems easier for me cognitively to just look at it as all whole steps, except for those 2 half steps between 3 and 4 and 7 and 1. Okay, now that's the A major scale, just looking at it as numbers. Now I'm going to put in the note names. Now you can see some sharps have appeared here. Let's find out why. From A up to the second note in the scale is a B. Between the second and the third note is a whole step. That means we've passed that C and we've gone to C sharp, right? The third and 4 are only a half step away. That's D. Whole step up to the 5, E. Whole step up to the 6, we pass that F, right? And we go to F sharp. From F sharp up a whole step is G sharp, up to A. So now just by taking that one string, putting in this major scale formula of distances, we've just found out that the A major scale has 3 sharps. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. This is how you find out how many sharps or flats are in a scale. Now we don't usually learn scales like this. We usually learn them like this. Right? We play them on multiple strings sort of vertically through a pattern, right? It is our responsibility as musicians to understand how to play anything we learn all over the neck. And let me just demonstrate. When you learn a scale, if you just learn it in one position, you're not quite done yet, right? You've got a little bit of work left to do. Let me just demonstrate a few different ways to see these same notes. I'm going to play them in a few different ways, and I'm just going to tell you what the constraint is. A major on one string. A major starting on that E string, 5th fret, there's my root, playing 2 notes per string. Starting on that same note on the E string, playing 3 notes per string. 4 notes per string. They push me in different directions, right? These notes exist all over the place. What about starting here, 2 notes per string? 3 notes per string, right? It is our responsibility as musicians when we get a new piece of information to map it to our instrument, right? That's just sort of basic educational hygiene. Get them all over the fretboard. But ultimately, those are the only two pieces of information we need to really start that journey, right? I really want to understand how this instrument works. Where do I start? Musical alphabet and that major scale formula. Those two pieces of information make up a solid foundation, a perfect scaffolding to attach any information that you come across for the rest of your journey as a musician. Okay, there it is. Just two pieces of information, that musical alphabet and the architecture of the major scale. Everything, every principle, idea, no matter how wild or crazy, in music theory, and I'm talking about the centuries worth of information, is based on those two pieces of information. And you can see how simple it is to just incorporate that directly onto the fretboard. Now, it behooves us as musicians to really make sure we got that down and it's really, really solid. But once it is, every single piece of information you ever come across, you can incorporate directly on the guitar with ease, I promise. Okay, before you go, there's a 7-day free trial on my Patreon page at the highest tier. You basically get a free ride. You can see everything that I offer there, including register for live courses, review live streams. There are weekly lessons that I post. There's a lot going on there. If you do decide to support the channel, thanks so much in advance. I hope this lesson has helped you a lot. I hope you found it interesting and useful. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time.